Quarterfinals start on Friday at the NWSL Challenge Cup. Here's what the preliminary round looks like. North Carolina Courage sweeping through it. They went 4-0 undefeated, and they end up with the #1 seed. For plenty more on the tournament, we welcome in Julie Foudy. Julie, let's start with this North Carolina Courage team. They've won the last 2 NWSL championships. They've won the last 3 NWSL supporter shields. Why are they so much better than everybody else?
Well, one, Sebastian, they're stacked with just a ton of talent. I mean, you go down the list of, and beyond national team players, let's start with the national team players. Crystal Dunn, Jessica McDonald, Lynn Williams, Abby Dahlkemper. I mean, you keep going. And then you add in like the Dabinas and the Kristen Hamilton who came on late, Haley Mace, who's going to be a young, fast player for them. So there's so much talent across the board. Abby Ursig, you keep going. Jaylene Hinkle, we hadn't even said. Now Jaylene Daniels. So they're chock full of talent. And on top of that, they have this incredible pride and buy-in. You talk about a team that wants to just run through a wall for their coach, Paul Riley. They talk about that all the time. Sam Mewis, I didn't even say her name. Sam Mewis will talk about, you know, their famous face the wind and take on whatever comes at them. And for them to have an underdog mentality still, which is always Paul Riley's sign and thing and calling sign, and that they've won the last 2 NWSL titles tells you everything you need to know.
Julie, when this tournament started, we lamented that there wouldn't be some of the big-name national teamers there. Megan Rapinoe, Kristen Press, Tobin Heath, Carly Lloyd, just to name a few. But the national team is still paying attention. We got Vlatko Andonovski, who's been at the games. We know Kate Markgraf, our former colleague here at ESPN, the GM now for the U.S. women's national team, has been watching as well. Of the players outside the pool, who has made the most noise in the preliminary round of this tournament to get into that pool?
That's a good one. I think you could make a case for quite a few, but the one that I'm interested in, and this is a position that's an interesting one on the national team because Alyssa Nair is 32, Ashlyn Harris is 34, is Bella Bixby. And this is the goalkeeper who came in for the injured Adie Franch for the Portland Thorns, 24 years old, drafted late in the 3rd round in 2018. She spent the last 2 years essentially injured and fighting to get into even into the lineup, into the roster. She's been a 3rd string backup goalkeeper essentially for the Thorns. Played at Oregon State, so she loves and would love to stay in Oregon, and she has had an outstanding Challenge Cup. She's been good, she's been clean, and so that's been an interesting story to follow because of, as I was saying before, Adie Franch is a very good goalkeeper. However, they're going to start looking at who's that next line of goalkeepers for the national team, and they're going to start looking at bringing in some young kids, and Bella Bixby might be on that list.
You mentioned the Portland Thorns. They finished 8th in the preliminary phase of this tournament. Let's take a look at the matchups in the quarterfinals. If there is such thing as an NWSL Clásico, we have it in that 1-8 matchup, North Carolina Courage against the Portland Thorns. Some other great matchups as well. Houston Dash, Utah Royals. That's the 5-4. Then you got Washington against Sky Blue on Saturday. Olympique Lyon Reign against Chicago Red Stars on Saturday night. We focus a lot on North Carolina Courage so far, Julie. Of the other teams, or maybe even of those other quarterfinal matchups, what are you most excited to see?
I actually want to see Washington Spirit Sky Blue. I mean, I know Sky Blue has had its struggles over the years, and they're missing Carly Lloyd, they're missing Mal Pugh, but they look like they've got something to them. And Washington Spirit has been fun to watch. They're the only other team at the Challenge Cup with multiple wins other than North Carolina. And although they lost Andy Sullivan, their star midfielder, they still have Rose Lavelle in midfield, Jordan DiBiase. They've got a healthy Tegan McGrady finally again, Stanford, a player that's super fun to watch, UCLA's standout Ashley Sanchez, who I've watched over the years with the youth national teams as well. So they're a fun team to watch, and I want to see where they're going to be looking at, how they're going to be looking coming into these quarterfinals.
Let's talk off the field, because this tournament so far has to be documented as a huge success for the National Women's Soccer League. They haven't had any positive cases of COVID-19. They haven't had any player complaints. They haven't had any matches postponed. We know that's not easy. We've seen Major League Soccer struggle with those aspects of putting on a tournament. Why do you think the NWSL has been so successful, and what do you think this means for the league's future?
Well, one, I think it helps not being in Florida. Two, it helps that you only have 9 teams compared to 26, or other leagues, which obviously are much bigger in size. NWSL, of course, had its own source of controversy early on with their Orlando team not being able to even travel into Utah. But yeah, they've had no incidents of COVID, no positive tests on the player side this entire tournament. So that's a huge win for them. And when you talk to the players, Sebastian, I talked to Sam Mewis, Crystal Dunn, and Jessica McDonald just this past week, and they said that they've been really conscious of staying within their team. They're not even socializing outside of course, their team, not even socializing with distance much with other teams at all, and making sure that they're keeping that bubble secure. And it seems to be working. Hopefully it's going to stay that way going forward for this last round.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.